Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Suella Braverman has a history of writing very pointed columns in papers. She tells the truth, or she calls it as she sees it. It's actually quite refreshing in a politician to see such action. And she's done it again on the eve of the election with, as I look at the clock, 15 hours. In 15 hours, the polls open. And she's written this, and it is very cutting and very damaging to the Conservatives. Now, we're going to go through it, and at the end, I'm going to make a prediction, because I think if you read between the lines, she's saying something else. So it's not particularly long. Let me just read it through so you get the gist of this letter that she's, or this article in the Telegraph that she's written. I won't attempt to do Suella's voice. You'll have to just put up with mine. But she says, when even cabinet ministers are admitting that Labour will win the election and that Thursday's vote is now all about forming a strong enough opposition, one needs to read the writing on the wall. It's all over, and we need to prepare for the reality and frustration of opposition, she says. She goes on to claim that Tory voters feel that the party hasn't delivered for them on things they voted for time and time again, and that the rise of Nigel Farage's Reform UK is entirely our own fault, referring, of course, to the Tory party. They created the atmosphere for which reform could thrive. She continues, we may lose hundreds of excellent MPs because of our abject inability to have foreseen this inevitability months ago. That our failure to unite the right would destroy us. Tory cabinet ministers attacking Farage is like a patient berating the doctor for the illness. It is an illness that could have been easily prevented by the patient taking heed of the warnings years ago, admitting the problem, and adopting some healthy habits. She says, despite all the defeatism contained, she says, she rounds this off by saying she's still hoping for an England-style triumph, referring obviously to the football match the other day. Weren't they lucky buggers? And I watched a video, just as an aside, of 2 England fans who'd walked out the game early. They were fuming and they were looking at, and the guy interviewed and said, have you left early? He says, utter shite, he says. No, a couple of Northerners, utter shite, he says. I was ashamed to support England, so we thought we'll get out early, and we got the trams before they're busy. And just as they said that, you could hear in the background the roar of the equaliser. And then they just both looked at each other, and you could just hear one saying, it was funny. Anyway, getting back to this. She says, and just round this off, she says, if we don't enjoy the same luck as the England team, she says we need a searingly honest post-match analysis because the fight for the soul of the Conservative Party will determine whether we allow Starmer a clear run at destroying our country for good and having the chance to redeem it in due course. She said, indeed, it will decide whether our party can continue to exist at all. Now, that was the letter she wrote, and it was published in the Telegraph yesterday evening, so it's there for you all to see. Now, if you read between the lines, as I want to do, she says things on a prima facie basis that is quite quite open and honest. The party's having problems. It should have foreseen these problems. It knew these problems are coming, and it did nothing about them. And now, of course, it's paying the price. And it is a very, very high price. Utter, not just defeat, but annihilation. Existential annihilation. And it could easily have been avoided. And yes, she's right. She says the problems began, and what she called years ago. I think there, in that line, she's indicating the problem began with Rishi Sunak. He stabbed Boris in the back. He caused all of this to happen. And then the members did not want him. And so they ignored the will of the members, and the MPs imposed Rishi on the party and on the country with no mandate whatsoever. And so that antagonised their own supporters beyond measure. And so their own supporters now are giving them what they wanted. They did not want to listen to the people, so why should the people listen to them? Karma, eh? Karma. Now, for Rishi, it won't matter. He'll just get on his little private jet and sod off to his mansion in California and enjoy his billions of tax-free income. But it does leave the rest of us up shit creek without a paddle, to put it bluntly. But when you look at other things here, especially the end, talking about whether the party continues or not, and just general tone of what she's saying, I'm reading into that something which maybe one or two of you have already read into. I have a feeling she's just about had enough of the Tory party. I have a feeling that if Thursday, tomorrow's election goes well, or as well as we hope for reform, I have a feeling they may well have a very high profile member very quickly. I have a feeling Suella may jump ship, and that would be a hell of a victory for reform. To get someone, at that level, previously cabinet minister, to go across to reform. And as I read that article and think about it, I think increasingly that that's the case. And if she goes, you have to ask, who else may consider joining reform? There are one or two, I think, that would quite easily join them. Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example. Now, of course, you'd think him being the truest of true blues. And yet, the thing is, he said in a recent interview that he agreed with just about everything Nigel Farage has said. And certainly, Jacob Rees-Mogg is an anti-EU. He is very pro-British, very patriotic. Old school, of course. He's the minister for the 18th century. But even he says that what Farage is trying to do is a good thing. Could Jacob join Farage? Again, it would be astonishing, but not implausible. There's just so many people who may do this. I think this could be existential. It could be the end of the Conservative Party, certainly as we know it, but possibly the end forever. They could become like a rump party, some party that years ago was okay and big and then faded into irrelevance. Fantastic, isn't it? We shall wait and see. Of course, this time tomorrow, we'll all be sitting there waiting. Get me snacks, get me little table next to me, fill it up with nibbles, wait till 10 p.m. and the clock starts ticking then, doesn't it? Because that's where the count starts and they have the first exit poll. And that's usually quite an indicator. That's usually quite accurate. So 10 o'clock tomorrow and we'll go with it. And do join me. I'm going to be putting videos up, just little reactions, little tips. I'm not going to be doing a full live stream or anything like that. Just lots of little bang-ups there. So if you are one of those really, really sad people who sits up all night watching the results as they come in, just keep an eye out. There will be a few videos going. I did intend to do it last time for the results, but if you remember, the council results, but if you remember at that point, YouTube went down. Makes you wonder, if it goes down again tomorrow, what will be happening? We'll have to wait and see. But do join me if it's at all possible. Thanks for watching. Take care and goodbye.